My in-laws came in and stayed with her for a weekend when she was about a year old. That was our first time away from her. And so that worked well. But pretty much for like date nights and stuff, I relied on friends.
Okay.
And we had a very large community that we were part of. We're Buddhists, and so the Buddhist community just rallied around.
Right. And
Yeah.
like for us, like for now, like I said, my husband's actually behind the camera and we're here this morning, and AJ is actually with some of our good friends who we knew from Mississippi who also live here in Atlanta, because my family's in New York and my husband's family is in Mississippi. So it's not like they can get here like, oh yeah, I'll come babysit AJ for 2 hours on a Saturday morning. You have to kind of rely on those folks. So do you rely on your family or babysitters, or your son also goes to daycare?
Yeah, my parents, his grandparents, he's the first grandbaby.
Okay.
They jump at the chance to spend a morning or afternoon with him.
That's great.
So I'm really lucky there. He is blessed with a big family that really wants to spoil him and love him, and you know, any chance that I need help, somebody's gonna jump up and want to play with him.
That's great that you have a support network.
Yeah, it really is, and I wish that, I don't know, it's just.
So he hasn't been, so you haven't, never hired a babysitter?
No.
Have you ever hired a babysitter from the top? So what do you do when you and your husband want to go out?
Well, if we want to go out, I have to say we're really bad. Sometimes when we go out, we make sure that it's on a venue or something where we can take him. But if it's somewhere like we're going to some gala or something, we have some neighbors in our subdivision who's always willing to watch him if we need to. It's very rare. And then we have cousins that live in town, and then if we need to take like a long trip, like a week or something, of course we have those cousins, or my sister, I know she'll jump on a plane and volunteer herself to watch him as well. So
That's really interesting that none of us have really hired strangers to watch our children.
Oh, and you know what I was just reflecting on? When I was 12 years old, I had 5 younger brothers, and I babysat for a family across the street that had 6 young children.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And so I would have 11 small children when I
gosh.
was 12 years old.
that's a slumber party.
I would never have considered hiring someone who was not, preferably like my mother-in-law, an RN, retired grandmother of many.
That's really interesting. I wonder what's changed in that dynamic. Are we all just skeptics?
I think since there's been a lot of coverage on the news about, you know, people, you need to be careful who you have watching your children, a lot of mistreatment. I think that now mothers are a little bit more concerned and try to find people to watch their children that they more trust.
They know personally.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these like restaurants and places, they're starting to be family friendly. So now you don't really have to rely on someone watching your child. You can bring them. You know, like I'm always doing like small gatherings, and I put it boldly, bring the kids.
Exactly.
Right.
And you know, sometimes they'll have like their teenage daughter or something watch the kids in the small room. That makes it easier for you to have a great time with family or friends, or outside doing date nights or whatever. You have places now where you can bring the children.
Sure.
I think that's what's one of the major changes.
And that was shifting when we had Allie too. So it's a trend that's been going on for a while.
I wonder if it has something to do with the nanny cams, or even just the stories on the news about what they would capture and the shaken baby syndrome and that kind of thing. You know, there's so many scary things that can happen in about 2 minutes. So it's like you want to trust that person completely.
And then with my husband and I being in news, I think we know more of it. And, you know, we've seen it, we've covered it, and I've covered even tragedies where parents have done things to their children. So the thought of, you know, someone who doesn't love your child the way you do, I don't know. But that's really interesting that we all kind of are on the same page with that. So you have to decide for yourself, moms and dads, you know, what's best for you and your family, especially if you're like some of us and our family's not right there in your neighborhood, kind of like the way we used to grow up. So that's just our take. You're watching MommyTalkShow.com.